when you are the violent settler colony, you have to actively dehumanize the indigenous population that you're destroying and keeping subservient through militant action. And that is actually what's going on. Israel is the party that fucking constantly has to teach its children to hate the Palestinians. Because if they didn't, if they were honest about their treatment of Palestinians, then young generations of Israelis would be like, what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? What is this shit? Holy that is so crazy.
The New York Times is one of the most popular publications in the world and the paper of record
Noah
for the
Samsen talking about manufacturing consent for the genocide.
United States. It's also run cover for Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. It's done this with things like laundering atrocity propaganda, passively framing Israel's war crimes, deliberately avoiding the use of crucial descriptive words like genocide, and more. Today, we're going to get a small taste of that by reading through one of their beautiful pieces of journalism, an article published on March 15th titled, Israel Keeps Up Attacks in Gaza Despite Truce. Now already you may notice a bit of a problem with the headline. There's a truce, they say, but Israel is also conducting attacks in Gaza.
Yeah, that was amazing. Guardian wrote that as well. Ceasefire on shaky grounds as Palestinians exist and Israelis keep bombing them. Well, that's not a ceasefire then. It seems like Israel is violating said ceasefire. And it seems like you're defending Israel's violation of said ceasefire. I'm so for real on this. Obviously, this is not, at this stage, it's not even remotely consequential because like the immediate harm being done is to the Palestinian population, and the harm being done in the United States of America is to, you know, people who are pro-Palestinian, especially if they're non-citizens, as we have seen so far. Having said that, if you think that the Trump administration is not going to go after bad Jews, okay, anti-Zionists, and then go after all Jews, you're a fucking moron, okay? There's not enough money in the Sheldon Adelson, Miriam Adelson camp for the growing anti-Semitic fascist movement in this country, okay? You are not aware of how dangerous things are fucking becoming. And every single moment that you do not detangle Israel from Judaism is another moment where you got 1,000 new people that are like, okay, well, if they say so. Like, it blows my mind. It fucking blows my mind that prominent figures, Jewish, Christian alike, that are pro-Israel are running defense for Israel by saying, no, this is, Jews love doing this. This is for Jews. This is for all Jews. We have to keep killing these babies. Like, this is just for, like, it's like taking ownership over blood libel. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It blows my mind. You have to get your fucking head out of the sand, man. You have to. It's going to turn. If you don't recognize that, you are fucking delusional. Now, on that note, let's get to Noah Samsen, manufacturing consent for genocide. Is there TOS on here?
Gaza. So is there a truce or is there not one? If there is a truce, the correct word to use in regards to Israel's conduct is violates. Israel violates the truce by attacking Gaza. An attack on Gaza is a violation of the ceasefire. Any of those would do, anything other than what is written here. Israeli forces killed at least 9 Palestinians in Gaza in strikes on Saturday, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, the latest in a string of Israeli attacks on the enclave that have kept up despite a roughly 2-month-old truce with Hamas. Okay, wait, so not only did Israel violate the ceasefire, but in doing so, they killed 9 people. Why is this mass killing event being downgraded to simply an attack in the headline? A non-ceasefire violating attack at that? Since the ceasefire went into effect in mid-January, the military has conducted constant strikes in Gaza. Israel has accused militants of threatening its forces by laying explosive devices, flying drones, or by approaching where Israeli troops are deployed. Hamas has claimed those attacks have killed more than 150 people since the truce took effect, at least some of them civilians. And it has...
I think if Israel, instead of Israel, our favorite colonial state was instead Liberia, we'd be talking about anti-black racism and not anti-Semitism. Is the fact that the government is using anti-Semitism as a weapon against leftists that makes it topical? What? The only Jews in the U.S. are in danger are the ones outwardly supporting Palestine law. Anti-Semitism is an outmoded perspective that fuels Jewish exceptionalism. What? but there is no proven material basis for that threat. In fact, this new fascism is explicitly Zionist. Is discrimination based on ideology, not Jewish ethnicity. I mean, this person is not incorrect. Yes, the only Jews straightforwardly that are under attack in the United States right now, like the ones that are directly under fire, are anti-Zionist Jews. Those are the ones who are getting arrested. We just showed you Grant Minor, the fucking leader of the student movement, who just got fired by Columbia. He's Jewish. All right, 204 TOS. All right.
Has accused Israel of repeatedly violating the agreement by continuing military operations. So this is a good example of kind of one of the central issues in this coverage, which is that the claims from both Hamas and Israel are being given the same weight in this debate going on in the article, but only one of the figures cited here can actually be confirmed. When Hamas claims that 150 people have been killed, this is a statement of fact. Israel has killed over 150 Palestinians, the vast majority of whom are civilians, including a number of children. We have the names, the video and photographic evidence of their killings, and the medical records. When Israel says that its troops...
Sorry. There's the other thing, by the way. Where is it? There's someone else that said, Jews have a valid claim to being fearful. Can we not do that rhetoric? Anti-Semitism is prevalent for sure, and Jews are valid in feeling unsafe in America. Yes. Okay, I understand that. Except the way that this conversation plays out in mainstream media is that Jewish people are forward, specifically as pawns in the process, to say, my feelings were hurt on campus. And your feelings hurting on campus because the association that you have personally made with Israel is now making you feel bad when someone says, that's a fucking baby murder state that you are defending, then that doesn't fucking matter. Like, fuck your feelings in that situation. We're not talking about like straight up neo-Nazis doing hate crimes against Jewish people. We're talking about this in the context of how pro-Palestinian thought and pro-Palestinian protests are directly under fire. I completely agree with you, but you respond to a chatter saying only pro-Palestinian Jews are unsafe, which is really not really true. No. The overwhelming majority of Jewish people that are directly under fire from organizations, from like actual institutions, if not damn near entirety, are anti-Zionist Jews. If we're talking about individualized violence, like the Jews that are being targeted by the state are not fucking pro-Israeli Jews. The Jews that are being targeted by the state are anti-Zionist Jews. That is a directly anti-Semitic incident, an anti-Semitic process that should terrify everyone.
Troops were threatened, Israel provides no evidence for this claim, and yet the New York Times reports it as if it's on par with the claims made by Hamas, claims which have evidentiary backing. On Saturday, the Israeli military said it struck 2 militants who were operating a drone that posed a threat, and then struck a vehicle carrying others who had arrived to collect the drone operating equipment. It did not elaborate on how they posed a threat to Israeli troops. Oh, okay. Well, this would be good to lead with, I think, the fact that Israel gave no evidence or even explanation as to why they killed 9 Palestinians with an airstrike during a ceasefire. Ismail Thawabte, the Director General of the Hamas-controlled government media office in Gaza, said the 9 Palestinians...
Look up the UNRWA and what Palestinian children say about Jerusalem. Yes, dude, you're right. Palestinian children they learn to hate Jews at UNRWA schools. You're right. That's why we should blow up all the UNRWA schools. Yeah. Why? Because I saw a video of fucking 12-year-olds being anti-Semitic. Shut the fuck up, dumbass. I've seen all the videos, okay? I don't give a shit. What do you think is worse? A 12-year-old in a fucking captive open-air prison being like, yeah, one day, inshallah, we'll take over Jerusalem again. It'll be ours. We'll rid it from the hands of the Jews. Or like bombing the fucking school and killing that child. What do you think is worse? Jesus Christ. How the fuck do people not understand that? Like, how do people not comprehend that? Terror, baby. These are babies of terror. They are learning to hate Israel and Jews at an early age at UNRWA facilities. UNRWA is also a terror educational facility. We must blow them up. They're not even arguing there's no genocide, just saying they deserved it. Exactly. Damn, I quit, dude. You found a video of an UNRWA school where 12-year-olds were saying they hate Jews. We should kill all the Palestinians then. My bad. I had not seen that one video. Now you know the videos I have seen of schools? Yeah, I've seen the schools being blown up with my taxpayer-funded munitions. Okay? I think that is unconscionable. Significantly worse. The fuck are you saying? There's a very obvious reason why Palestinians learn to hate Israel, okay, and then associate Israel with Judaism, because the fucking Star of David is on the flag that's dropping a bomb on their school. The fuck do you mean? If your only interaction is a military that brands itself as the Jewish military that does everything at the behest of Judaism, falsely conflating Judaism with the actions of Israel, of course you're gonna be like, yeah, I don't know. It seems like these guys fucking aren't the fans of me, and I kind of hate them. That's why it's always funny whenever people are bringing up like, oh, these babies, these terror babies, they have copy of Mein Kampf annotated. Look, we found this copy of Mein Kampf in a baby's crib. It's like, dude, you think a fucking 14-year-old Palestinian needs to read some random fucking German dipshit to learn about his hatred of Jewish people? Or do you think it literally comes from Israel saying, we're doing this for Judaism. We're killing you because of Judaism. Here is a fucking Star of David that we carved on the side of the face of a Palestinian captive. Here's a Star of David that we carved on the side of a fucking school, a former school that is now just rubble. The fuck? Here, we're putting up a menorah in the middle of fucking Gaza as we're doing a genocide. Where the fuck do you think they learned this behavior from? Dumbass. Like, how would you do? What would you do?
Palestinians killed in the strike were working for a charity. The identities and statuses of those killed could not be independently verified. So when Palestinians report evidence, the New York Times makes sure to designate their...
Why is this case not made in reverse? Are we going to pretend that Israel doesn't radicalize people? No, of course. I talk about that all the time. Everything Israel does is fucking projection. And this is projection too. When you are the violent settler colony, you have to actively dehumanize the indigenous population that you're destroying and keeping subservient through militant action. And that is actually what's going on. Israel is the party that fucking constantly has to teach its children to hate the Palestinians. Because if they didn't, if they were honest about their treatment of Palestinians, then young generations of Israelis would be like, what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? What is this shit? That's it. Of course, it's projection. It's pure projection. It's the state that has power that has to actively propagandize so that its citizens don't fucking rise up and say, what the hell are we doing? This is like insane levels of violence. Yeah. Here, who do you think? Who do you think is actively fucking dehumanizing Palestinians? Some Purim costumes from the Instagram story of photographer Alex Farfouri. That's a literal fucking baby. Dressed up as Hamas baby for Purim. Another pager-themed Purim costume, because what's funnier than one of the biggest and most sadistic terror attacks in history? Look, here, this is a celebration of Purim. Terror babies. Here, this is the real terror baby.
חג פורים אומנם יחל רק בעוד כחודש, אבל רומי ונועה כבר יודעות למה הן התחפשו השנה.
למה החלטתם להתחפש לסיירת גולני וסיירת גבעתי?
בעיקרון כל מה שהם עושים בחיים עכשיו זה להגן עלינו ולשמור עלינו. אז צריך ככה להראות את הגאווה של העם שלנו.
גם אחותי עכשיו בעזה בגבעתי ואני רוצה שהיא תראה.
זה חלום שלכם להיות אולי יום אחד חיילות קרביות?
ברור.
ברור, של כל אחד.
לשמור על המולדת שלנו.
שמירה על המולדת היא תמה מרכזית בתחפושות פורים 2025.
אני חייל טקטי ורציתי את זה כי קודם כל זה תחפושת ממש ממש יפה. כאילו אני שומר על המדינה, ממש להרגיש את זה. אני שוטרת, אני בהפגנות, דואגת שהכל יהיה מסודר וזה, עוזרת למשפחות ולמפונים. אני חושבת שזה חשוב כי אנחנו בכל זאת עדיין במלחמה וזה תפקידים שעוזרים לנו ומגנים עלינו.
זה זכות להגן על המדינה.
זה זכות, זה פרס.
באמת רואים עלייה בביקושים, אתה יודע, בעקבות זה שהילדים בבית, ורואים שאבא הולך למילואים, ואח במילואים, אז הביקוש בא מלמטה.
גם בפורים בשנה שעברה, ישראל הייתה במצב מלחמה. ועדיין נדמה כי בפורים הנוכחי, המציאות טיפה אופטימית יותר. אולי גם לנוכח חזרת החטופים.
אני חושבת ששנה שעברה היינו קצת יותר בשוק, אז אנחנו צריכים גם להפגין קצת אושר ושמחה. אני בטוחה שזה יעלה לכל חייל את החיוך על הפנים שהוא יראה אותנו ככה.
עכשיו שחוזרים החטופים, אתה חושב שזה באמת סוף סוף מחזיר את עם ישראל לשמחה גדולה?
לא, כי לא כולם חזרו עוד, ויש עוד את מי להחזיר, וזה לא ייגמר עד שהחטוף האחרון חוזר.
בבאר שבע, מעצבת האופנה ספיר חלמיש טורחת על תחפושת שמשלבת אלמנטים שונים ומגוונים שקשורים במלחמה ובחטופים.
מה שאתם רואים פה זה בעצם תחפושת של טייס. פה יש את הסמל של החטופים ואת הכיתוב להחזיר אותם הביתה. פה יש לנו את החרב של חרבות ברזל, שזה בעצם השם של המלחמה. הכתר זה הנובה. מה שאתם רואים פה בעצם זה העצים שהיו שם במסיבה, והדיסקית של השבויים שלנו.
Dude, I'm sorry. Dude, it's so bad. It's so fucking bad. That is unironically one of the funniest aspects of like Israeli art is that because right-wingers are so mad. They're too mad to be funny. They're too mad to make art that like an entire society that is primed to the gills of like with fascist propaganda will always end up making art like this. Yeah, it's like the MAGA ball gowns. Exactly. It's just like, oh God. That's why the best piece of product that comes out of Israel is like anti-Semitic, Colombia anti-Semitic. Oh, I'm going to Colombia anti-Semitic. I love Hamas. I love Hamas. It's my favorite. I'm a queer non-binary student at Columbia anti-Semitic. Oh, it's so fucking ass. Your output, your cultural output is fucking ass, okay? Jesus Christ. Truly cursed shit. Yeah, here. 3 million views.
Hi everyone, we are live on YouTube with Columbia Anti-Semitic News. We're
Columbia Anti-Semitic News. Oh God, I love fascist art, dude. So good.
everyone is welcome. LGBTQH.
H?
Hamas.
Yeah, I totally sim Hamas.
Yeah.
It's so trending right now.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Do you know why it's true? Because it rhymes. Just look at all this toxic Zionist propaganda. Kidnapped in Gaza. Does this look like Gaza to you?
Yeah, bro, I have no idea what Gaza looks like.
And they're smiling. Do hostages smile? Zionist liars.
Totally sus.
Yeah, Brent Gelman also did a bit with them. No way, this is real? No. You got to see this. You got to see what fascism does to art, okay?
Do they think we're stupid?
Stupid? I major in queer post-colonial astrology. Ew. Jews make the world dirty. And no, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm racist fluid.
Exactly. And now for a little break from all this activism, we want to say hello to our BFF,
Bestie freedom fighter.
Abu Fatwa in Gaza. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum as-salam, and inshallah, Allah will kill you all infidels.
Thank you so much for joining us. Love the
Who is this for? The entire population of Israel. That's who this is for. Dude, this bang. Dude, look at this. 3 million views. Whoever played the masked Hamasnik should receive an Oscar.
headpiece, the all oppression shit.
Wait. Malcolm X said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. He's saying that. Bro. He's saying that as in like He's using the Malcolm X quote to talk about Israel, and not in the like, not against Hamas or anything, not against Palestinians. He's saying like, yeah. Let's keep going.
Very drip.
Mr. Fatwa, how are you? Are you safe?
Oh, yes, I'm safe. I'm in a tunnel under the Gaza hospital. Above me, I have Allah and 2 million.
Yeah, he's like, they can't make a joke. The reason why they can't make a joke is because they're too busy trying to angrily shove fucking propaganda in here. Like, you can't make a joke like that.
And civilians protecting me.
Community is so important these days.
Do you need like humanitarian aid, food, fuel, medicine?
It's okay, I have everything. I'm only hungry for rockets.
As long as it's organic.
Yeah.
I wish I just could be there with you.
You can come to Gaza anytime and we will throw you from the roof, you homosexual dirt.
Do you hear? Bro, want to throw me a rooftop party.
They are so welcoming and inclusive.
So, shukran. And you are also very welcome to come here to America.
We will come. First we finish with Israel, and America is next.
Great! So, I guess we'll see you soon.
Yes, it will be a blast.
Can't wait. It will be so multicultural.
Ya Allah, you are so stupid.
Thank you so much, Abu. With you.
Won't even bother killing you. It's a waste of bullets.
Good vibes only.
It's better you just kill yourself.
Okay, bye.
Die.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be Jews free. Yeah, that sounds better.
It is better.
Come on, man. That's a banger, dude. Careful, brother. They might ban you for broadcasting terrorist propaganda like this. No. That's the beauty of this. You can do as much terrorism propaganda as you want, as long as it's like American terrorism propaganda or Israel terrorism propaganda. As long as it's like terrorism propaganda coming from a state actor aligned with the United States of America. This right here is just like straight up. This is a self-inflicted wound. Okay. If Israel wasn't such a fucking firmly committed fascist nation, then they could have better art, but they can't. Destined to eat dog shit food and destined to fucking make dog shit art. Oh, anyway, I love that shit. Injected directly into my veins, dude.
Their status as a Hamas-controlled, Hamas being a U.S. designated terrorist organization, mind you. Terrorists are controlling this government media office. That's the implication whenever they use.
Oh, they're doing the Houthi-controlled hospitals now, too, by the way. That's the new meta. I like that because liberal media basically, made this position the normal position. Like, there's no more like Gazan Health Ministry. It's Hamas-controlled Gazan Health Ministry. Now they started doing it under the Trump regime too. No, they're now saying Houthi-controlled health ministry. It's awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, tell me more about how different this is. You know, tell me more about how different liberal media is under the Trump administration. Shouts out to Brandon for that one. The Houthi rebel-run health ministry says the death toll from the U.S. strikes on Yemen has climbed to 31, including women and children. Fantastic. Thank you, Associated Press. Doing a great job at journalism in a pivotal time when fascism is basically destroying this country as well.
Use this label, and that nothing can be verified independently. The IDF is, of course, absent from the U.S. list of terrorist organizations, despite its many terrorist actions. That's because the U.S. makes the list, and the U.S. and Israel are the good guys, according to the U.S. and Israel. So that takes care of that double standard there, but the independent verification on their claims goes unmentioned. Interesting. The Israeli military said earlier on Saturday that...
Yeah, oh, here's Felix's take to this. Replies are all people going, you're reporting the Houthi-run ministry's claims? This is why I fucking hate you, as if they didn't phrase it in that way just to discredit them without making any specific charges. A level below threatening to kill an actor who plays a bad guy. I hate Professor Snape. I hate him. He's a bad guy. I hate that guy. If I catch him in the wild, I'll show him what. Alan Rickman, also based pro-Palestinian advocate, for the record. What is this? Yemeni military. The U.S. aircraft carrier Harry Truman has fled after being targeted by missiles from the Yemeni army, retreating 1,300 kilometers away from Yemen. This makes it difficult for it to launch a new aggression against Yemen. Lord Superb, would that be on 1970s Soviet-era missiles that have shorter range than an average firework you can buy from a toy shop? Your fucking country would not exist if it ever dared to stand up against the United States of America. Okay? You have nothing, Lord Superb. Get the fuck out of this conversation. See yourself out of this conversation. You personally engaged in one of the funniest acts of economic self-sabotage because you saw one too many Polish people at the pub. Shut the fuck up. An island filled to the brim with the dumbest people I've ever seen in my entire life. Fired by our third-gen era MiG-29 jets that were first made in the 1970s. Ooh, scary. Scary. What do you have? You got nothing. It makes it infinitely worse when you spell it out like this, that like the American government and Operation Prosperity Guardian last time around failed spectacularly in spite of the diminished resources that the Yemeni government had. Okay? Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. You have nothing in your arsenal that would make me afraid. We will keep the baby killing until morale improves. How dare you? How dare you come after the Amazon shipments going into Israel? They too deserve to eat jellied eels, just like I do. Yes, my good sir. I assure you, the British Navy has the most advanced aircraft carrier in the universe. We just don't have F-35s in it. Yeah, none of that matters. You can't break the spirit of people, okay, that know that their cause is moral, okay? If their cause is anti-genocide, they're on the right side. I can't speak on their domestic affairs. That's not what I'm talking about right now. They're not fucking bombing Sanaa because of, I don't know, whatever mistreatment that they have perceived, let alone that wouldn't actually solve the domestic disputes regardless. The reason why they're bombing Sanaa is the same exact reason why they bombed southern Lebanon. Because they dare resist against Israel. They dare to act against a genocidal state in the region. That's it. Quite the statistic. The U.S. Navy has used more missiles for air defense, in air quotes, since combat operations against the Houthi naval blockade in the Red Sea off the Yemeni coast began in October 2023 than it used in all the years since Operation Desert Storm in the 1990s. In 15 months, the Navy fired more air defense missiles than it did in the last 30 fucking years. And they weren't able to stop. They were not able to stop the blockade. Okay? Sorry. Good luck convincing me. Good luck convincing me that this is a good idea, that this is the best idea, when the alternative is that the blockade did stop officially when Israel did the ceasefire that was on the table for months. Yeah, Yemen is officially the poorest country on the planet. Yeah. These develop hydrogen fuel cell drones. These go thousands of miles. Very impressive. Okay, they didn't personally develop it. I'm fairly certain the New York Times article said they got it from China, which, hey, just saying. Do you think a war with Iran is coming in the next week or so? Yes. I think that the attacks against the Houthis are gearing up for some kind of attack against Iran potentially. And that is damaging. And I think Trump will learn that lesson the hard way, most likely.
That it had struck 3 militants in central Gaza who were...
Don't you think war against Iran could be good for Trump? Are you insane? Here's how this plays out. Donald Trump, the peaceful dove president, decides to go to war with Iran, okay, which is a nation state that is sovereign, All right. It's been outside of the American sphere of influence and been victim to sanctions for quite a while, but that has created a hardened shell outside of Iran in order to survive in spite of those sanctions with a network of collaborators, both in the region and also internationally, that are also outside of the sphere of American influence. This country has its own weapons programs. This country has its own standing military that are obviously also much better equipped in handling combat, right? Donald Trump goes in and starts bombing Iranian targets alongside the coalition forces in Israel, probably some British people too. They're all around the area, right? Iran's retaliation, depending on the severity of escalation from the allied forces in this regard, the real axis of evil here, Israel, America, England, and the like, is going to not be to, I don't know, activate sleeper cells in America or whatever. They're just going to take it directly to fucking Saudi Arabia, America's ally in the region. Saudi Arabia, the economic engine that fuels the world, quite literally, not just figuratively, but also quite literally. What are they going to do in that process? That's right. They're going to fucking blow up the oil refineries. And that's all it takes. Then the market obviously nosedives after that. All of a sudden, there is a major oil shock. It's basically worse than the Nixon oil embargo. It's literally worse. Complete global collapse. Complete global collapse. The entire market is ruined. World war. The problem is, I think Trump literally is stupid enough to do it and not foresee the inevitable results. A U.S. spy drone retreated from near Iranian airspace after encountering Iranian F-14 fighter jets and reconnaissance drones. Iran's Noor News quoted the country's Army Air Force as saying on Monday, Iran's armed forces remain on high alert, prepared for a full-scale defense and severe counterattack against enemy interests in the Middle East, Noor News said. Yeah. It's like having a direct loaded gun at the most valuable thing. No one, especially people in the Western world, cannot overcome an oil shock. Okay? Our entire industry, the global marketplace, the global economy runs on oil. It runs on petrodollars and it runs on oil. You fucking limit the amount of oil that's readily available because you burn the oil refineries and everything falls apart. And guess what? That process will not cause people to go, oh, wow, I can't believe Iran did this. How dare they do this? I suspect that there will be a lot of media interest in massaging the narrative in that direction, but most people will still be very upset at Donald Trump as well. He who can destroy a thing has the real control of it. Paul Atreides or some guy in the IRGC. Yeah. Dude. Oh, dude, if you think, by the way, for the record, if you think anti-Semitism is skyrocketing, and it is, wait till, oh my God, wait till the white nationalists get to fucking do propaganda about how young white American men are having to go out to the Middle East and dying for Israel. Holy fuck, dude. They already made that inference off of the Iraq war. That's like a very famous white nationalist perspective, is like the people who hate Muslims, but also simultaneously hate Jews, who are like, wow, we're in Iraq because of Israel, because of the Jews, right? Wait till that fucking, wait till you're directly in combat. American 18-year-olds from Arkansas are directly in fucking combat, getting their shit blown off, specifically because they had to defend Israel, because God forbid we tell Israel to stop doing a fucking genocide. Holy moly. What do you think happens in terms of anti-Semitism at that point?
Were attempting to install explosive devices on the ground near Israeli soldiers. Officials in the Gaza Health Ministry did not respond to requests for comment. The steady drumbeat of Israeli strikes is a reminder that while Israel and Hamas have reached an agreement that paused most of the fighting in Gaza, a comprehensive truce is still nowhere in sight. In Lebanon, Israel is conducting a similar aerial campaign against the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah, a Hamas ally, during the US-brokered ceasefire there, saying Israeli forces are attacking sites and operatives that have breached the agreement. So the exception to the rule of, quote, most of the fighting being paused in Gaza is the steady drumbeat of Israeli strike.
Tishara said, what do you think about spineless Papa Gut? And I don't even know what that is. What the fuck?
Why is the steady drumbeat of Israeli strikes not the focus of this article? What a poetic way to describe something that must certainly be in violation of a ceasefire, right? Steady drumbeat? The war in Gaza began after Hamas's deadly October 7th attack on southern Israel, which killed about 1,200 people, mostly civilians, according to Israel's government. About 250 others were taken back to Gaza as hostages. The New York Times, as most Western outlets do, choose to start the clock on this war on October 7th of 2023. Did anything happen before that could have led to the conditions that may have led to such an attack? Or any other options explored, perhaps even nonviolent ones by the people who undertook it to alleviate said conditions? What happened in the preceding 70 years? Was there a brutal occupation and repeated campaigns of ethnic cleansing, a medieval siege controlling everything that goes in and out of the Gaza Strip, repeated high-tech massacres of innocent civilians in Gaza, massacres Israel itself refers to as mowing the lawn? Is any of that relevant? Who knows? Definitely not the New York Times. Israel's subsequent military campaign against Hamas has killed more than 48,000 people, including thousands of children, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. The figures do not distinguish between civilians and combatants, and the Israeli military claims to have, quote, eliminated nearly 20,000 Hamas operatives. So this is just straight up IDF propaganda right here. Weighing these claims against one another as even remotely comparable is IDF propaganda. There's no other way of putting it. The Israeli attacks in Gaza are characterized by an extremely high civilian casualty ratio in comparison with other armed conflicts in the last decades. As of January 2025, 15 months into the attacks, over 46,000 persons have been killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. Some 24,000 out of the 40,000 who have been identified are women, children, and older persons, making almost 59% of the identified fatalities. While the estimated number of combatants killed by the ISF varies, there is no doubt that civilians comprise the vast majority of the persons killed since the Israeli attacks began. According to a United States intelligence assessment from May 2024, Palestinian armed groups have lost 30 to 35% of their fighters in Gaza since October 2023. The commission therefore estimates the death toll of Hamas and other armed groups as between 6,000 and 14,000, given an estimated strength of about 20 to 40,000 militants prior to October 2023. One report estimated that 8,500 militants were killed. The ISF claimed in October 2024 that it had killed about 17,000 Hamas operatives and members of other armed groups. Given that the number of adult male fatalities since October 7th has been around 16,000, this would mean that the ISF considers all adult male Palestinians in Gaza to be members of armed groups and so legitimate targets. So even if the total number of male deaths were 16,000, 4,000 less than what the New York Times is so graciously quoting the IDF as saying, that still means that there are no innocent men in Gaza. The IDF has repeatedly egregiously lied about the ratios of combatants to civilians killed. The evidence we do have, far from being the most moral army in the world, it's like the least moral army in the world by a long shot, the army that committed and is currently committing genocide. That's another thing that goes completely unmentioned in this article is the whole genocide thing. Who cares about that though? That's just a bunch of independent human rights organizations. The only credible sources on the matter are the IDF, I guess. There's certainly no conflict of interest there in citing them. Israeli leaders say they will not end the war against Hamas until they topple the group's rule in Gaza and the territory no longer poses a threat to Israel. Hamas has shown some willingness to give up civilian governance in Gaza, but has drawn a red line on disbanding its battalions of armed fighters. How rude of them to refuse to disband their military capabilities. It's not like that's some recognized right under international law for an occupied group of people. Dicks. Israel and Hamas are supposed to be negotiating the next steps in the ceasefire agreement, which would involve a permanent end to the war, the release of the remaining living hostages, and a full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. Mediators, including the United States, Qatar, and Egypt, have made little headway so far, given the entrenched disagreements between the two sides. Yeah, entrenched disagreements. Both sides have those for sure. Could there be any valid reasons for disagreement among one of the two parties? Perhaps the violations of the ceasefire that you just spent an entire article describing, could that have anything to do with these alleged disagreements from both sides? I legitimately cannot read the New York Times without getting really angry and writing a script about it. Israeli forces remain deployed in a buffer zone inside Gaza and along the Philadelphia corridor, which runs along Gaza's border with Egypt. Under the terms of the ceasefire, Israel was supposed to have withdrawn from the Philadelphia corridor by mid-March. Oh, that's good. Thanks for the heads up. So they also are violating the ceasefire in another way, on top of the steady drumbeat of attacks. Thanks for letting us know, I guess, at the very last sentence of the article. Really cool. So what do we notice from this article here? Overall, it's just a masterclass in manufacturing consent. The New York Times passively reports clear evidence of Israel's ceasefire violations while weighing them against Israel's unverifiable defenses with long histories of fabrication and falsehood. The New York Times offers a disgustingly passive and vague recounting of the numbers, names, and circumstances surrounding the Palestinian deaths. The death toll of over 150 Palestinians includes many children, such as Ahmad Abed, a 7-year-old Palestinian boy that was killed just days ago. Crucially, though, the article makes no mention of Israel's complete blockage on humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. On March 15th, the day that this article was published, Israel had completely blocked any entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Can you post a link to this video, please? Chat, what do we say? Look up. Look up at the top of the chat, and you will see the link to the video linked as the pinned chat. It is the pinned comment up there. Look up. That's right. It says gullible up there. Got 'em.
Gaza for over 2 weeks. 2 straight weeks of no food, no water, no supplies, no housing, a recent total halt on any electricity. All of these restrictions calculated to bring about the suffering and destruction of this group of people. And all of them in direct violation of the ceasefire agreement, international law, and the ICJ's provisional measures issued against Israel to prevent the crime of genocide from taking place. To the New York Times, none of this is important. The fact that 6 babies have frozen to death due to the harsh conditions, lack of fuel, and lack of housing, all a direct result of Israel's aid blockage, completely man-made deaths, all of that is unimportant to the New York Times. To end this video today, I want to turn briefly to the newspaper Haaretz. Haaretz is the Israeli paper of record, and Haaretz is weird because a lot of their coverage is as bad or worse than the New York Times in terms of caping for Israel's genocide, but of late their coverage has been quite direct and honest, much more than anything you'll see in the West. That isn't saying much, but let's just read to get an idea. Article headline: 9 killed in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, including journalists, Palestinian medics say. Right away, wow, okay, look at this. 9 killed in not just attacks, but Israeli airstrikes. They're naming the perpetrator. The victim include a claim made by the source of Palestinian medics. That's crazy. They didn't call them U.S. terrorist designated Hamas-run health ministry operatives or whatever. They just said Palestinian medics. How refreshing. The IDF said it targeted a terrorist cell operating a drone that was threatening Israeli forces, while local media outlets in Gaza reported that the victims were journalists using a drone to film humanitarian aid. Even the simple choice of what order to place those sources and quotes in does something, right? Contrasting the IDF's claim with the many sources in Gaza with no conflict of interest, unlike the IDF, makes the summary of the situation a little more honest, I think. Israeli airstrikes in the Gaza Strip on Saturday killed at least 9 people, including 3 local journalists, according to Palestinian medics. The death toll represents the highest number of casualties in a single day since the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas began in January. The IDF said 2 of the victims were operating a drone.
Wait, what did he say? That guy said Hamas should put you in front of a firing squad? Is that what he said? Hamas should be put in front of a firing squad. Brother, we're currently watching something even more devastating just being put in front of a firing squad. Like, all Palestinians are Hamas, and they're all getting fucking blown to bits, including the journalist that Noah just mentioned. Like, what do you mean?
Drone that posed a threat to the soldiers. The other victims, according to the army's statement, were gathering the gear left over on the ground. They go on to
Hamas equals ISIS. No matter how hard you try to do this Israeli propaganda from the beginning, Israel is literally ISIS. Israel is both aligned with ISIS, and Israel, in its conflation of a religion, ISIS with Islam, Israel with Judaism, its destruction of cultural monuments, its destruction and lack of care or consideration for a civilian population, is unironically exactly like ISIS. Okay? A militant resistance group against an apartheid state that is doing a genocide is not closer to ISIS a violent settler colony that is doing an apartheid and also conducting a genocide is infinitely closer to ISIS. But yeah, keep doing this. I'm sure people will believe you eventually. So much propaganda here. USA, so much propaganda here. USA attacked Yemen again. Stage 1 is over and there's no agreement on stage 2. Facts. Womp womp. Human shield. Well, Jewish students that you called inbreds were attacked on campus. So Jewish students that are called inbreds. It is pretty funny that these guys just like live in a fantasy world. I've never called Jewish students inbreds or Jews inbreds in general. I call the KKK inbred in the same way that I call the Jewish KKK, violent, rabid, right-wing, ultra-nationalist settlers, inbred. Okay? That's it. You can perhaps lying about this and saying that I claim that all Jews are inbred will make you feel better. You know what I mean? Oh, this is the same guy from that. Did you see the Asmongold response? Why you always talk about Asmon? Yeah, Hamas has literally fought ISIS. Israel, on the other hand, has not. Israel has actually apologized for accidentally striking ISIS soldiers and has offered them logistical support and also medical support. You can look this up. You can find this information if you would like to. But hey, as is the case, I will always use a bottom of the barrel troll to educate the masses. But I saw multiple once again clips of you saying the word inbred with no context, so it must be true. Yeah. That argument isn't valid. You have Palestinians/Arabs agree with Israeli actions. Wait, what? That's amazing. Yeah. Palestinians fucking love getting killed by Israeli bombs. Like, they love it. They're like, please, more of this.
Quote the IDF's miraculous revelation that every single person that they killed, including the multiple journalists, were actually covert, undercover terrorist operatives. It's far from the first time they've had such miraculous revelation.
Hey, my boy, he made it too. Shouts out.
Post-journalist murdering. The Palestinian Journalist Protection Center in Gaza said that the victims were journalists using a drone to film humanitarian aid. The organization said in a statement that the targeting of journalists prevents the world from being exposed to the truth about what is happening in Gaza, and called on the international community to condemn attacks on journalists. This assault constitutes a war crime that violates press freedom and endangers media and aid workers, they added. More journalists have been slaughtered in Gaza over the course of the last 17 months than any conflict in modern history. This is just another chart in the long graph of such murders. And on top of there being a righteous call to condemn such actions is the repeated cowardice of journalists from places like the New York Times for staying completely silent on what's happening, for being willing to publish articles that normalize Israel's war crimes and genocide, while the people of their own profession are being cut down, murdered repeatedly with their families.
Yeah, one of the few journalists in the Western world that has actively spoken out against Israel's crimes against journalism is fucking Fox News international correspondent Trey Yingst. That's how insane this is.
They can watch this happen.
He's not exactly a fan of Palestinians or Hamas either. He's just like, even he's like, dude, this is completely unacceptable.
And still report on the very murders of the people that are in their profession, while immediately sharing the murderer's side of the story. It's just despicable and cowardly, and every journalist that works for the New York Times should be ashamed. Hamas said in a statement that the deliberate killing and barbaric attacks once again confirm Israel's intention to undermine the ceasefire agreement and its deliberate sabotage at every opportunity. Hamas spokesman Hazem Qasim added that Israel's attack on journalists and humanitarian workers violates the ceasefire agreement. Referring to Israel as the occupation, he said that Israel deliberately targeted humanitarian aid workers seeking to worsen the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and push the population towards famine following the tightening of its blockade on border crossings and obstructing entry of all aid. So the only time in both of these articles we get any mention of the aid blockages, which are also a ceasefire violation, are when Haaretz does the brave, bold choice of quoting the other side. Haaretz is Hamas now, I guess. I'm sure that's probably that. I'm going to look that up and show screenshots. I know that they're saying that probably. The Indonesian hospital said it received 8 bodies from 2 airstrikes in the same area of the northern town of Beit Lahia on Saturday. Fares Awad, head of emergency services in northern Gaza, identified one of the dead as Mahmoud Islim, a local reporter who was operating a drone. Several were critically wounded as the strike hit a car with casualties inside and outside the vehicle, the medics added. Witnesses and fellow journalists said the people in the car were on a mission for a charity called Al Khair Foundation in Beit Lahia, and they were accompanied by journalists and photographers when the strike hit them. So hopefully in reading both of those articles, we can see both the New York Times' disgusting passivity and normalization through their repeated citation of the IDF's own defenses as essentially fact, versus the modicum of integrity that we get from Haaretz in this specific instance, with their willingness to critically analyze the sources of their information and not do, IDF PR. Ultimately, neither of these outlets were willing to show imagery of what took place. And when you see the faces of the children that Israel has slaughtered during this quote-unquote ceasefire, or when you see the carnage inflicted upon the group of journalists trying to simply gather evidence of the starvation of their people for which they were executed, it tells a slightly more in-depth story than 9 killed. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Just a short one. Sources are linked below. I made a post on my community tab about it.
Anyway, that's a brief introduction to that stuff. God damn, dude. Holy shit.